Uncommon Marketing Matters is an interview series hosted through Uncommon Marketing Works that highlights the accomplishments and learn from failures of experts in the marketing world and how they achieve success through unique and creative tactics. Many marketers face that myth that anyone can do marketing, and I'm putting heavy quotes around anyone can do marketing. However, results-driven marketing is more complex than some may think. Uncommon Marketing Matters highlights these complexities and gives an inside look into what it takes to be an effective, successful, and innovative marketer. Hello, I'm DeFabio, the Growth Marketing Manager here at Uncommon Marketing Works. Let's dive into Uncommon Marketing Matters. Hey, marketing gurus, it's DeFabio, the Growth Marketing Manager here at Uncommon Marketing Works. And thank you for joining us on this episode of Uncommon Marketing Matters. Today, we are here with Kizaan Knapp, the Director of Content Marketing and Strategy for Emburse. Kizaan, thank you so much for being here today. I'm super excited about this.
Yes, this is going to be a great conversation. Yes. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. So you're in Colorado right now, right?
We are, yes, okay. In Denver, Colorado.
Is it snowing yet?
It is not. It has been surprisingly actually very hot. I recently went to Mexico on vacation. And when we left, it was 72 degrees in Denver. When we got to Mexico, it was 81. So.
Oh my gosh. So not really that big of a difference.
Nope. Yeah.
I
was hoping to make all my friends jealous with them being cold in the snow, and that did not happen.
Not at all. Yeah. Up here in Pennsylvania, I actually just got back from Florida. And it was snowing when I left for Florida. And then when I came back, it's like 65 degrees here in Pennsylvania. So not going to lie, definitely loving it. The warm weather, especially around the holidays.
Yes, it'll make winter easier because I feel like in Denver, people can't wait for winter. And then a month in, everyone's over it. So
right. That's exactly. Yes. Yeah. So let's dive in a little bit about Emburse kind of quickly, and tell us a little bit about Emburse and what your role in the company entails. What's your day-to-day kind of look like?
Yeah, so I'm the director of content, and I'm lucky enough to actually, one of my passions, and we'll get into it later in the questions, but part of why I love marketing is really relationship building. And kind of getting to have a hand in each of the pies that are going out. And so I get to work with several different teams, obviously sales being our primary stakeholder. I sit on the demand gen team, so I really support the demand gen campaigns. But then we get to work with product marketing and Marcom. And so I get to not only do what I'm passionate about, but I get to actually learn from other teams on a daily basis. Which really fuels, again, why I got into marketing as a whole. And so it's a really great experience. Emburse is a growing company. There are a lot of new people joining the team constantly. And with that brings new, fresh ideas. And so it never feels static or stale.
Yeah. And then, of course, being the Director of Content Marketing and Strategy, it's not like you're just hopping into that position right away with no experience. So can you kind of give us a little bit of a background on your marketing journey into that position? How did you start out? Did you get your degree in marketing?
Yeah, actually, funny enough, so I'm originally from South Africa. I'm not sure if anyone picked up on the accent. I came to the States and was only planning on staying for a year after I turned 21. And then ended up actually going to college out in Northern Virginia, George Mason, to anyone listening who's a George Mason fan. And I actually got a degree in graphic design, mainly because I really wanted to study fine art. My parents were like, there's no way you're doing fine art. Got into graphic design, and then worked as a junior designer for a government contractor out in the DC area. And a position opened up as a junior kind of marketing person. And so I fell into marketing by accident and absolutely loved it. The minute I was put into this junior marketing position, I knew I'd found my spirit animal. And they just kind of progressed up from there. I think the one thing that I do want to highlight is kind of as the journey went on, I realized I was a junior, I didn't have marketing experience. And so one way to get around that in interviews of obviously kind of moving through my career is doing things outside of my job description, essentially. Going through the buyer journey on someone's website, going through those touch points and bringing that type of stuff up in interviews, for instance, being able to say, hey, I went through a buyer journey. Once you request a demo, there's no automatic email that gets kicked out. What can you do there to enhance that experience? And so that really helped me be able to kind of move through my career where maybe I didn't have the skill set since I'd studied design.
Yeah, I think that gives you like a nice round point too. You see this bird's eye view of kind of what the company's doing, where you're going to interview for.
Exactly.
And bringing new ideas to the table that they might have been too close to even consider at that point.
Exactly.
Yeah. Perfect. So what really got you interested in Emburse, and especially in this like director of content marketing and strategy position? Why were you like, this is my bread and butter, this is what I want to do, this is where I want to focus?
Yeah, it's funny. Obviously, we just started this podcast and we were chatting earlier about this. But again, I have been super lucky in my career to have worked with some really, really great senior leadership teams. And there are two, very specific people that stand out in my life. They were VPs and SVPs of marketing who have kind of brought me along for the journey. We built trust early on in our relationship, and I have been lucky enough to get recruited by them as I kind of move through my career and go to companies that they're at because they are excited about my take on marketing and my passion. And so with Emburse, this was another opportunity where, I really, with my career kind of advancing, I've been getting more and more into account-based marketing, personalization, and content is really all things marketing. Content feels marketing. And this was a great opportunity for me to be able to take what I've learned from account-based, from demand gen, and bring it back into content strategy that again then supports what product marketing is trying to do, what sales is trying to do, what the DG team is trying to do. And so it was just the perfect next spot for me.
Yeah, perfect. So it's interesting that you say like account-based marketing. You're really getting into that because I think for a lot of new marketers, coming into the industry and the field, or even marketers who have been here, maybe they're too familiar with B2C marketing and not a lot with B2B. They're unfamiliar and a little bit confused about what exactly account-based marketing is and how can you use it efficiently. Do you mind going into a little bit about how you use account-based marketing and what your overall strategy is with that?
Yeah, I'm a giant nerd when it comes to account-based marketing.
Perfect. So we're asking the correct questions here.
You'll hear me preach all day about account-based, and that is what marketing should be. It shouldn't be like, oh, we're either doing account-based marketing or something else. Account-based really should be where you start. And really what that means, on the most basic level is understanding your buyer. I think as marketers, we tend to sit in our marketing teams and we have this kind of inside out view of what buyers want versus actually going to that buying group. With B2B, a lot of times, especially enterprise B2B, the buying group is big, right? There's different personas. Right now, like for instance, our personas are HR, it's, finance leaders, it's IT. All of those people want to consume different content, in different ways. And when you use the spray and pray method, where you're like, well, I'm just going to, for instance, put all of my eggs in an email basket or one campaign basket, you're missing an opportunity to be able to get to those buyers in a way that they want to consume your content. I'm sorry to say to all marketers out there, just because you build it does not mean they will come. You have to put it in front of them where they expect to see it. And the most simple form of that is just think about your daily day. You're consuming content on your phone, on different channels, in different ways. And what's the first thing you do when you have a bad experience? You never go back. If an example is, if I get an email and I've recently bought, I'm a woman of a certain age, I won't say how old I am, and I've bought 4 different things, say from a store, and they all of a sudden start sending me men's pants, that's going to be a really bad experience for me, and I'm not going to feel like they understand me. And that is account-based marketing in the simplest forms, is understanding your buyer, and giving them what they want at the right time, which is a lot harder than I just made it sound.
Yeah, very, very. It would be very simple if it was as simplified as you being a woman and getting male pant ads.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Yes. If only if it was that easy for everything.
I knew it was that easy for everything.
We'd all be expert marketers at that point.
Exactly, right? We would never have to learn anything again.
Yes, yes. So, okay, we talked about, like your role in content marketing and strategy, and also your kind of like your niche, it seems a little bit, with account-based marketing. But overall, with marketing and working with clients or customers, or even like your internal team or your sales team, what do you find that you're actually the most passionate about when it comes to marketing? What really like makes your heart happy?
Yeah, I mean, marketing as a whole makes my heart happy. And it's interesting that you asked me this question. I really thought long and hard about this question. So I realized that just because I love marketing doesn't mean other people get it. And that is a great example of my mother. She does not know what I do for a living, why or how. And I was trying to explain it to her, and I was like, Mom, when you go into the store and you buy something, right? You make a decision to buy something. How did you get to that decision? And she was like, well, I might see some things on Facebook, or, I saw an ad for something in Amazon, and then, someone said something about it on Facebook. And I was like, well, and she was like, and then, I go into the store and it's, there's a woman smiling with this thing that I want to buy. And so that's how I make my decision. And I was like, that's what I do. That's what marketing does, is we essentially get you on that path to make that decision, make the decision we want you to make to buy our thing specifically. But that's what I do. I have to think through all of those components that you are going to interact with, that's going to get you to buy the thing that I want you to buy, right? My brand or my product, or, and she was like, oh, okay, that I understand. And I was like, marketing is so much more than that. I think one of my biggest pet peeves is people thinking that marketing just puts, pretty logos on things, and that's yes. What we do. But it was that thought process of being able to flip it and put it in her world, and not think about it as, okay, well, how much work goes into that ad, right, that you saw, or how much work went into that messaging. But from her perspective, it maybe is a 30-minute experience or a 2-day experience. In my world, that's a 6-month experience getting that to you. But being able to kind of think through it from that buyer or prospect side of, what is that experience going to be for you? And I get to decide that, which is, to me, really awesome, because marketing's happening to you all day long. And if you think it isn't, you're very wrong.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You know what? It's so interesting that you phrase it like that. And I've never really thought about that. But like us as marketers, we have a lot of power over the thought processes of consumers, and how not only they view our brand, but how they view almost every aspect when it comes to society, right? Like when it comes to every product they're consuming or the messages that they're seeing, like everything from like ads when you're playing like a game versus, everyone sees like Facebook, Instagram ads, right? Even something so simple as like a push notification from something that you're getting on your phone.
We get to create that experience.
Yes, constantly, which is so exciting.
And sometimes we fail miserably, right? Sometimes it's a bad experience, or there's a part of it that's bad. But that's also cool. I mean, I think even for me, being in a career where failing is okay, it is also really cool. My sister's an accountant, and when she fails, things do not go well for her.
Right. Yeah.
When I fail, it's considered learning, which it should be, but I get to learn every time we put something out, which is just, to me, being from a creative kind of mind view is a really cool experience for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with you when it comes to failing. That's something I think, all of our lives, when you think back, like even elementary school, when a teacher would ask you a question, no one wanted to raise their hand because they were afraid to be wrong. Well, now it's like, we get to do that. We get to have fun with it, but then we learn from it. We optimize, we look at the data, and then we improve. So that's always something that's really nice, that failing isn't necessarily losing, and you're still winning somehow because you're learning something that could make that product, make that messaging, that image, that graphic better.
Absolutely. Yeah. And if you're not failing, you're doing it wrong.
Right. Yes. So you talked a little bit about, your biggest pet peeve is someone thinking that marketing is just like slapping a pretty logo on something. And that kind of leads into our next question. Are there any stereotypes that you hear often, even outside of the one that you already mentioned, about marketing or about being a marketer, that you're just like, oh, this grates on my nerves when I hear this? And I know a lot of other marketers are going to hear this stereotype too. Let's just talk about it.
I mean, how much time do we have?
We'll be here for the next 24 hours, ladies and gentlemen.
Longest podcast in the history of podcasts.
Going for the Guinness World
Exactly.
Records.
Exactly. I love this question. Yeah, I think I would say my three biggest ones are obviously what I've mentioned, is that we just make things pretty. I think additionally it's that marketing is fluff or fluffy. You're nodding your head, so you've obviously heard this one.
Very much so.
And then I think this is a pet peeve because I've actually seen this be not an issue. I have seen it be an issue actually where it does actually happen, but just that sales and marketing will always butt heads. And that we can never get along, and we, can never support each other, which I have actually been lucky enough to work with some fantastic sales leaders and sales teams where we have been able to actually be one team and not have it be sales and marketing sitting side by side, kind of tossing things over the fence at each other. When things are going well, one person takes credit. When things are not going well, or one team takes credit when things are not going well, it's a quick race of who can throw each other under the bus.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think they're just such misconceptions about marketing. And again, I think that would be a whole different podcast conversation.
Yes. You can make a whole podcast just from that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. So with these stereotypes, right, you're always coming into contact with those groups who believe those things. But in addition to that, every marketer is facing some type of challenge, whether it's an internal personal challenge of creating a new product, content strategy, or if it's like working with coworkers and trying to collaborate. But what's a significant problem that you've faced throughout your career that you're like, this moment stuck in my mind and taught me so much about what it means to be an effective marketer? And how did you kind of go about solving that problem and working through it?
Yeah, I would say, throughout my career, it's been, like I said earlier, I've worked with leadership teams that have kind of paved the way for me to be creative and try new things. And that's been great. I think where I started getting stuck was once I actually got into a position where I had to start leveling it up to leadership teams, being able to present strategy and plans to a CEO and a CMO and a CFO and all of C-suite sitting in a room, and I'm sitting there presenting to them, and getting to a point where I can explain marketing to them in a way that they care. I had one leader who always said to me, tell your story by answering the question of why would I care? So if my CEO is sitting in a room going, why would I care about what you're presenting? I have to be able to level up that conversation to him. And I can't get in the weeds of like, we have 40 tactics going on, because that might not be of interest to him. He's a big picture thinker. And the first couple of times I had to do that, I would say it was really hard for me, because I would get in the weeds. I would get into situations where I would over explain or under explain. And once I could actually step back and really come to the table, starting my conversation with data, or having my conversations be ROI driven, that is when I started being able to really get into a situation where I could start leveling up that conversation. And also being able to explain, like, I think with marketing, if you're especially in B2B, ROI doesn't happen overnight. Someone does not buy an enterprise piece of software in a day, in 24 hours. It takes months and months. And so I think one of my biggest key learnings throughout my career is with marketing, the more data-driven you can be, the better the conversations are going to be when you're asking for more budget or asking to try something new. And so, yeah, so I would think it's not a campaign or project specific thing, but it was actually something that was really hard for me to learn. And I continue learning even today.
Yeah, I think that that's like the biggest thing too from the agency side, working with companies that are B2C and B2B. It's constantly, we can put in hours, months, years of effort, but at the end of the day, everybody's interested. Like, what's our return on investment?
Yep.
What are we getting from this?
Yep.
Like those Facebook posts, yeah, they might have gotten great engagement, but how is that helping my bottom line?
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and having all this experience and having, I was like reading your resume, like over 12 years of experience in marketing, if not even more than that. What are some of the marketing trends that you've seen throughout the industry, and where the industry is kind of going right now, up and coming trends, if you can pinpoint any that you're like, oh, that's definitely something that we should all be paying attention to. I see big things coming from that, or I've experienced in my career big things from this strategy.
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say, I think, again, I mean, I don't want to keep hammering the ABM approach, but I think more so is personalization. I think it's an expectation. It's not even a trend necessarily, or where we should be heading. It's now. People expect it, especially the last 2 years. People are on their phones. I mean, I have an 8-year-old, and she's so her expectation of what happens to her on her phone or her iPad is what I think every person should experience in their life. As the expectation now is that things are personalized to me, they're quick. It's quick for me to understand what you want me to understand. If it takes you 2 minutes to explain something to me, you've lost me 30 seconds in, right? And it's like, quick, get to the point. And I think realness, honestly, I think marketing has this sheen of, it needs to be perfect, it needs to be the perfect messaging, it needs to be go-to-market strategy for everything. And I think what people expect today, especially with some of the channels, which is my second trend, is there are so many new channels popping up on a constant basis. I mean, TikTok, for instance. This is also going to age me, but I'm still trying to figure out TikTok. Right? But it's like, it's more of that realness of, it's like, hey, I'm transparent. This is what this is. And leaning into that in a way as a brand, of owning your brand in a way that it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be real. I mean, it doesn't have to be shiny. It can be more real. Maybe highlight the things you're not as good at as a brand, and say sorry for not being good, like you're working on it. I think that's where marketing is heading. It's removing that kind of shiny veneer and exposing a little bit more of brands and who sits behind the brands, like making your marketing team approachable and making your brand approachable. And then channels. I mean, I think marketing evolves so quickly that people still kind of get stuck in their heads of like, well, marketing channels are like email, and there's like 2 social channels, but I think if you get stuck in that rut, you're not going to be able to reach certain people that do not want to consume content on those channels anymore. Because if you, again, bring it back to yourself, if you have, say, 8 hours of the day, you're working, you've got friends, kids, family, it needs to be quick, easy, and simple, right? And it needs to be where you're at. Like if you're scrolling through Instagram at night, that's where you need to be thinking about putting your message.
Right. Right. Yeah. And that's the other thing that you're kind of saying, like with all these messages hitting you from all angles. If it's not quick, if it's not understandable, it's just, we're going to scroll right past that. We're going to delete that email. We're going to ignore, if you're going old school with something like a billboard or a mail piece or something like that, it's like going into the trash, driving right past it. I think also it's constantly innovating, like you said, finding these channels that are new, that it's like, oh, okay, maybe we're discovering this completely new audience that's really actually interested in our product and our brand, and this is the channel that we can hit them, that others are not filling in that channel just quite yet, because it's up and coming.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think, again, it goes back to the failing, right? A lot of the new channels popping up, it does not cost a lot from a budget perspective to try it. And so it's like, yeah, if you do want to put budget in your traditional channels, because you might be someone sitting at that buying table that does want a traditional channel. But I think the biggest thing is to not get it doesn't have to be one or the other. It's like you can try new things quickly, learn from it and move on, and try things where you're not pumping, say, 10,000 or 100,000 into something that you're not 100% confident is going to work.
Right. Yeah. So kind of on to our last question here. For those who are, very young, maybe high school level, considering going into college and majoring in marketing, or maybe just actually they're just post grads and they're looking into a career in marketing, or even those who are in entry level or mid-level, working their way up. What's one piece of advice that you've learned from your career that you could kind of part with and give to all of us up and comers that we would find valuable and we can take away from here?
Oh, that's a lot of pressure.
Guide the next generation.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Wow. Okay, cool. Again, I would say, I think with up and coming, there's so many opportunities for you, even individually. I think, again, throughout my career, it was what's on your resume. And I don't think that's a thing anymore. It's kind of more of like, you can go to someone that you want to work for, and you can have explored several different channels and said, hey, let's say Emburse, I wanted to work for Emburse. I did research on who your persona is. I tried these 3 channels, reaching out to some of your personas, and they engaged with me like this, and this is how I want to bring this to your marketing team. And so I think a lot of it is exploring marketing in a way that is not that kind of traditional, oh, I studied marketing, now I want to get into it, I have to have certain years of experience on my resume. I think we're in a really exciting time where you can actually take that outside, bring it back to someone and say, I've tried these several different things, or I went through your website buyer journey, and it, you can really enhance your experience here, here, and here. I think everyone I've ever worked with would love someone to come to the table and say, I want to be a part of your marketing team because I want to make the company better. And then again, my biggest, I know this sounds really corny, but with marketing, don't be afraid to fail at things, and highlight the things you're failing at. I have this thing where I kind of will start my one-on-ones with my VP as, hey, I tried this week and it didn't work, and here's what I'm going to do about it. And it's, it doesn't have to be the situation where it's like, oh, look at all the great things we've done, but actually the more interesting moments for me are the things where we have failed and we've learned from them.
Yeah, I think that's like a really good point of like failing, but then you're able to bring to the table and say, here's what I've learned, and here's what we're going to do next. It's not just like, that didn't work, let's scrap the whole idea, because it could still be a good one that you just need to develop a little bit further.
Right. Or it's a timing issue. I've learned a lot in my career that we would run campaigns, and if they didn't work well, let's say we would run them in September, they didn't work well, we would scrap them. And what I started doing was like recycling those campaigns 3 months later, and they would be our biggest successes. So again, it's like, so don't reinvent the wheel. Marketing, again, is all around you. Take from it, right? Take those experiences around you and bring them back into what you do, in your teams.
Yeah, perfect. All right. Well, that is the end of our podcast, Kizann. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate that. And thank you, everybody who's listening to Uncommon Marketing Matters. Stay tuned for another episode coming up very shortly, and continue learning, outreaching, soaking up all the marketing knowledge from as many professionals as you possibly can. Really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks, Amber. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for taking the time to listen to our podcast, Uncommon Marketing Matters. We will be releasing a new podcast every month with a new marketing expert. And should you ever find yourself in need of some advice when it comes to your marketing tactics, Uncommon Marketing Works is here. Go ahead, give us a shout, contact us today.